So that opening video that we watched, I actually found it very powerful. I have been listening to it for quite a while, but when I was preparing for today, I really started to pay attention to the words and realize how impactful it is in every aspect of our lives. And it truly is what laid the foundation for what I'm going to talk about this morning. Now, to achieve any change in life, there are three ingredients that are required. They're strength, power, and courage. Courage, of course, is not the absence of fear. Instead, it's the strength and determination to move beyond fear. It is the power of self-belief and conviction that on the other side of fear is something new. And the courage to place one foot in front of the other, stepping into the unknown. Now, these three qualities work together, and though they may appear to be separate, they are in fact part of a trinity that manifests change in our lives. Now, Lao Tzu said, being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. And to that, I would like to add, strength and courage give you the power to change the world. I've read countless books on the subject of being fearless, techniques designed to help you face your fears, techniques to help you ignore your fears, and in many cases, there have been those books and articles which talk about disproving fears as nothing more than false beliefs. Now, of course, I'm no expert, yet I've always wondered why we look upon fear as a negative, something to be ashamed of. As C. Joy Bell said, don't be afraid of your fears. They're not there to scare you. They're there to let you know that something is worth it. This quote, it stayed with me for some time. And the more I think about it, the more I realize just how true it is. As I look at the most significant changes in my life, I realize that there's always been a hint of fear. Fear of failure, fear of missing out, fear of not being good enough, fear of rejection. And I'm sure many of you would agree that without those fears, I'm personally not sure that the changes in themselves would have been that significant. We often expect men to embody the qualities of strength, power, and courage. In fact, these are masculine qualities because they are active rather than passive. And while we might be right in identifying them as masculine energies, they are not the sole domain of men. Courage is something that everybody wants, an attribute of good character that makes us worthy of respect. From the Bible to fairy tales, ancient myths to Hollywood movies, our culture is rich with stories of bravery and self-sacrifice for the greater good. From the cowardly lion in The Wizard of Oz who finds the courage to face the witch, to David battling Goliath in the Bible, to Star Wars and Harry Potter, children are raised on a diet of heroic and inspirational tales. Yet courage is not just bravery. History books tell colorful tales of social activists such as Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela, who chose to speak out against injustice at considerable personal risk. Entrepreneurs such as Steve Jobs and Walt Disney, who took financial risk to follow their dreams and innovate, are like modern-day knights, exemplifying the rewards and public accolades that courage can bring. There are different types of courage, ranging from physical strength and endurance to mental stamina. There are 6 different ways in which we might define courage. Feeling fear, yet choosing to act. L. Frank Baum, the author of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, had this to say: "There is no living thing that is not afraid when it faces danger. The true courage is in facing danger when you are afraid." Following your heart. Steve Jobs had this to say: "And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary." Persevering in the face of adversity. Mark Rutherford says, "When we are afraid, we ought not to occupy ourselves with endeavoring to prove that there is no danger, but in strengthening ourselves to go on in spite of the danger." Standing up for what is right. Maggie Kahn, a social activist, says, "Speak your mind, even if your voice shakes." Expanding your horizons, letting go of the familiar. Robert F. Kennedy said, "This world demands the qualities of youth, not a time of life, but a state of mind, a temper of will, a quality of the imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the life of ease." And finally, facing suffering with dignity and faith. A very famous philosopher, a very famous philosopher, Aristotle, said, "The ideal man bears the accidents of life with dignity and grace, making the best of circumstances." Now, a courageous person understands the danger and chooses to overcome their fear and proceed to face the danger and act according to their values. It is not fearlessness, recklessness, or rashness. It is a well-considered, wise, and brave decision to behave constructively despite the fear, discomfort, or temptation. Courage is a strength drawn from a careful balance between the weakness of cowardice and recklessness. It is the discipline to act on wisely chosen values rather than on impulse. Now, courage may be manifest in some of these ways. Valor and bravery. We often call this physical courage. Perseverance, industry, or diligence, often called endurance. Integrity, genuineness, or honesty, often referred to as moral courage. Now, sometimes the most difficult obstacles that we face are fatigue, boredom, and other chronic stressors such as relentless bad weather, a lack of food or shelter, disrespect, uncertainty, and any other annoyances or difficulties. Enduring in the face of these obstacles absolutely requires courage. Ordinary people courageously persevere over fatigue, temptation, and hardship to benefit others. The single mother who gets her children dressed for school each day before she goes to work herself. The unskilled worker who endures a low-paying, demeaning, exhausting job to earn the money to send his children off to college. And the alcoholic who never indulges in a drink are all choosing to do the right thing despite their hardships. In the 19th century, Henry Sedgwick first defined moral courage as facing the pains and dangers of social disapproval in the performance of what they believe to be duty. The moral hero often overcomes shame and humiliation, rejects conformity, risks ostracism, jeopardizes career and status, and sets out alone to take an unpopular stand and to do the right thing. Moral courage is choosing to risk embarrassment rather than tolerate injustice. Examples of moral courage might include women's suffrage activist Emmeline Punxsutawn was arrested 7 times before women gained the right to vote in the United Kingdom. The December 1st, 1955 refusal of 42-year-old Rosa Parks to obey bus driver James Blake's order that she give up her seat to make room for a white passenger. She was arrested, and unlike previous individual actions in civil disobedience, Parks' act sparked the Montgomery bus boycott. And moral courage of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and the Tank Man, who stopped a line of tanks during the Tiananmen Square protest of 1989, are all legendary examples. Every courageous step counts. Sometimes life can be challenging, and you can feel as though you are not getting anywhere. However, you have to remember that every courageous act counts. And if you take small steps every day, one day, you will get to where you're going. So what are courageous steps? Courageous steps are small actions that take you outside your comfort zone. Some examples of courageous steps or actions could be, and some of these are pretty hard. Being honest with yourself. Apologize to someone you hurt. This is a hard one for me. Asking for help. Forgiving someone who's hurt you. Going on a trip. Creating boundaries for yourself. Starting something new. Believing in yourself, maybe even for the very first time. Learning to love again. Learning to say yes and no when you really mean it. Walking away from gossip or negativity. Following your heart. Courage is the resolve to act. Great, I used a word I can't even pronounce. Courage is the resolve to act with virtue, especially when it is most difficult. It is acting for the good when it would be much easier not to do anything at all. I think sometimes those are the most courageous acts. Embrace courage, strength, and power in your daily life. I know this morning was kind of short, and I apologize for that. But I'm going to end it with 2 very profound quotes from the beloved children's character, Winnie the Pooh. I always get to where I'm going by walking away from where I have been. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. It's kind of interesting that comes from a children's book, huh? It really helps to keep that in mind. So I'd like to thank all of you for being here this morning on this Father's Day, and remember to keep that thought of courage with you as you go through your daily life. It's not just about physical acts. We can show our courage in our spirituality, in our daily routines. We show courage when we get out on the road. Try something new. Step outside of the box. And with that, the divine in me recognizes the divine in you. Peace be with you. Thank you.